There's a quiet kind of pain that doesn't look dramatic from the outside. No one claps for it, no one rushes to help you through it, and most people don't even notice it's there. It's the pain of knowing deep down that your life could be better, but somehow, it isn't. You wake up with plans, with ideas, with intentions to change things, but by the end of the day, nothing really moves. You scroll, you delay, you tell yourself, tomorrow will be different. And tomorrow comes, looking exactly like today. That frustration builds slowly. It shows up in the way you compare yourself to others, wondering why they seem to move forward while you feel stuck in the same place. It whispers to you when you're alone, asking uncomfortable questions you try to ignore. Why am I not where I want to be? Why do I keep repeating the same patterns? Why does everything feel harder than it should? Here's the truth most people avoid hearing. Your life is hard not because the world is against you, but because there is one thing you keep avoiding. Not because you're lazy. Not because you're incapable. But because that one thing is uncomfortable, demanding, and brutally honest. And until you face it, nothing changes. That one thing is responsibility. Not the kind people talk about casually. Not the surface level, be responsible, advice you've heard 100 times. I'm talking about full ownership of your life. The kind where you stop blaming your past, your environment, other people, or bad luck, and start looking directly at yourself. It's uncomfortable. It's heavy. And that's exactly why most people run from it. When you avoid responsibility, you give away your power without even realizing it. You start believing your situation is controlled by something outside of you. You wait for motivation, for the right time, for someone to notice you or help you. And while you wait, life keeps moving. Opportunities pass. Time slips away. And the gap between where you are and where you want to be keeps growing. But the moment you take responsibility, something shifts. You stop waiting. You stop hoping. You start acting. Taking responsibility means you admit the truth, even when it stings. It means recognizing that your habits, good or bad, are shaping your reality every single day. It means understanding that the discipline you avoid today becomes the struggle you face tomorrow. Most people want success, but they don't want the weight that comes with it. They want confidence, but they avoid the situations that build it. They want respect, but they don't do the things that earn it. They want change, but they resist the process that creates it. And that's the cycle that keeps life hard. Let's break it down in a way that actually makes sense. When you avoid doing hard things, life becomes harder. It's that simple. Avoiding discipline leads to regret. Avoiding effort leads to stagnation. Avoiding discomfort leads to weakness. You think you're choosing the easier path in the moment, but you're actually choosing a harder life in the long run. Think about it. The workout you skip doesn't just disappear, it turns into lower energy, less confidence, and a body that doesn't support you. The work you delay doesn't vanish, it becomes stress, pressure, and missed opportunities. The conversations you avoid don't solve themselves, they turn into misunderstandings, distance, and broken connections. Avoidance feels safe, but it quietly destroys progress. Now here's the part most people don't want to hear. You already know what you're avoiding. It's that task you keep pushing to later. That habit you know you need to build. That fear you refuse to face. That version of yourself you keep postponing. You don't need more information. You don't need another motivational video. You need to act on what you already know. And that's where discipline comes in. Discipline is not about being perfect. It's about doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it. Because feelings are unreliable. They change. They fade. They lie to you. But actions? Actions create results. The people you admire aren't special because life is easier for them. They've just made peace with discomfort. They've accepted that growth requires effort, consistency, and patience. They don't run from responsibility, they lean into it. And you can do the same. Start small, but start honestly. Take responsibility for your time. Notice where it goes. Be real about how much of it you waste. Then take control of it, even if it's just for an hour a day. Take responsibility for your habits. Identify the ones that are holding you back. Replace them, one at a time, with something that moves you forward. Take responsibility for your mindset. Stop feeding yourself excuses. Stop telling yourself stories that keep you stuck. Replace them with truth, even if it's uncomfortable. Because the truth is what sets you free. There will be days when it feels hard. Days when you want to quit. Days when progress feels invisible. That's normal. That's part of the process. But here's what you need to remember. Every time you choose responsibility over avoidance, you make your life a little easier in the long run. You build strength. You build confidence. You build momentum. And momentum is powerful. Once it starts, it carries you forward. The things that felt impossible begin to feel manageable. The habits that were difficult become automatic. The life that felt out of reach starts to come into focus. But none of that happens if you keep avoiding the one thing that matters most. Responsibility is not a burden, it's an opportunity. It's your way out. And if this message is hitting you right now, if you feel that uncomfortable truth settling in, then don't ignore it like you've done before. Use it. Make a decision. Not a dramatic one. Not something you'll forget tomorrow. A real one. A quiet commitment to stop running and start facing your life head on. Because at the end of the day, no one is coming to fix things for you. But the good news? You don't need them to. You have everything you need to start changing your life right now. Not next week. Not next month. Right now. And if you want more of this, real, honest, no excuses guidance that actually pushes you forward, then subscribe to this channel. Stoic Mind Force. This isn't about quick motivation that fades in a day. This is about building a mindset that stays with you for life. Your life doesn't have to stay hard. But it will, if you keep avoiding the one thing that can change everything. You might be thinking, I get it, take responsibility, be disciplined. But if it were that simple, you would have already done it. So let's go deeper. Because the real problem isn't that you don't understand what to do. It's that you haven't trained yourself to face discomfort without escaping it. That's the real battle. Every time something feels difficult, your mind looks for an exit. It suggests distractions. It offers excuses that sound reasonable. It tells you, you deserve a break, even when you've done nothing to earn it. And if you keep listening to that voice, you slowly train yourself to quit before you even begin. This is how people become stuck, not in one big decision, but in hundreds of small moments where they choose comfort over growth. And here's the part that might sting a little. No one is going to stop you from doing that. No one is going to force you to wake up early. No one is going to make you put in the work when it's boring, repetitive, and unseen. No one is going to hold you accountable when you break promises to yourself. That's your job. And until you take that seriously, life will keep feeling heavy. Because when you can't trust yourself to follow through, everything becomes harder. You start doubting your own words. You lose confidence in your ability to change. You hesitate, you overthink, you delay. Not because you're incapable, but because you've trained yourself not to act. But the moment you start keeping promises to yourself, even small ones, everything begins to shift. You say you'll wake up at a certain time, and you do it. You say you'll work for an hour, and you follow through. You say you'll avoid a bad habit, and you stick to it, even when it's uncomfortable. At first, it feels small. Almost insignificant. But it's not. Because you're rebuilding trust with yourself. And self-trust is the foundation of everything. Without it, you'll always feel uncertain. With it, you become dangerous, in the best way possible. Focused. Consistent. Unstoppable over time. Let's be real though, this process is not glamorous. There's no applause when you choose discipline. No one celebrates you for doing the hard thing when it's inconvenient. Most of the time, it's quiet. It's repetitive. It's just you, doing what needs to be done. And that's exactly why it works. Because most people won't do it. Most people will keep chasing motivation instead of building discipline. They'll wait until they feel ready. They'll start strong for a few days, then fall back into old habits the moment it gets uncomfortable. You can't afford to live like that. If you want your life to change, you need to become the kind of person who acts regardless of how they feel. That means showing up when you're tired, working when you're not in the mood, staying consistent when results are slow. That's the edge. And here's something most people never realize: the hard things you avoid don't go away, they grow. That simple task you keep delaying becomes overwhelming. That goal you keep postponing becomes distant. That version of yourself you keep ignoring becomes harder to reach. Avoidance compounds your problems. But action does the opposite: it compounds your progress. Even small actions, done consistently, create momentum. And momentum changes everything. So stop looking for a massive breakthrough. Stop waiting for a perfect plan. You don't need it. What you need is to start where you are, with what you have, and do it consistently. Not perfectly. Consistently. Because perfection is another form of avoidance. It gives you an excuse to delay action until everything feels just right. And that moment never comes. Execution beats perfection every time. Now let's talk about fear, because that's usually what's hiding underneath all this. Fear of failing. Fear of being judged. Fear of not being good enough. So instead of facing those fears, you avoid the situations that trigger them. You stay in your comfort zone. You play it safe. But safety has a cost. It costs you growth. It costs you opportunities. It costs you the life you could have built if you were willing to take risks. You don't overcome fear by thinking about it. You overcome it by moving through it. Every time you face something you're afraid of, you weaken its hold on you. Every time you avoid it, you strengthen it. So the question is simple: which one have you been doing more of? Be honest with yourself. Because your answer explains your current situation. If your life feels stuck, it's not random. It's a reflection of your patterns, your habits, your decisions. And that's actually good news. Because if your actions created your current life, then new actions can create a new one. But you have to be willing to do what you've been avoiding. Not someday. Not when it's convenient. Now. Start with the thing you keep pushing away. The task that's been sitting in the back of your mind. The one you know matters, but keeps getting delayed. Do it today. Not all of it, just start. Because starting breaks the cycle. It interrupts the pattern of avoidance. It builds momentum. It proves to yourself that you can act, even when it's uncomfortable. And once you start, it becomes easier to keep going. That's how change really happens. Not in one big moment, but in small, consistent actions repeated over time. So if you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Stop avoiding the one thing that could move your life forward. Face it. Handle it. Own it. And if you want to keep building this mindset, the kind that doesn't run from discomfort, the kind that creates real change, then subscribe to this channel. Stoic Mind Force. Because this isn't just about motivation. It's about transformation. And that only happens when you stop avoiding and start becoming. Let's strip it down even further, because at this point, there are no more excuses left to hide behind. If your life feels hard, heavy, or stuck, it's not because you're unlucky. It's because you've built a pattern of choosing what's easy now over what's necessary later. That's the trade you've been making, whether you realize it or not. And every time you make that trade, you reinforce it. You tell yourself, "I'll do it later." And later becomes never. You say, "I'm not ready." And you stay in the same place for months, even years. You convince yourself that you need more time, more clarity, more motivation, but deep down, you already know what needs to be done. You're just avoiding the cost. Because everything meaningful has a cost. Discipline costs comfort. Growth costs effort. Change costs consistency. And if you're not willing to pay those prices, life will charge you a different kind of price: regret. Regret is expensive. It shows up quietly, but it stays for a long time. It's the feeling of knowing you could have done more, been more, pushed harder, but didn't. It's looking back and realizing that the opportunities you wanted were right in front of you, and you let them pass. You don't want that. So stop negotiating with yourself. Stop saying, "I'll start tomorrow." Stop lowering your standards just to feel better in the moment. Stop pretending that avoiding discomfort is helping you, when it's actually holding you back. You need to raise your standard. Not in a loud, dramatic way, but in a quiet, serious commitment to yourself. You decide that certain things are no longer optional. You don't debate them. You don't overthink them. You just do them. You show up. You follow through. You finish what you start. That's how disciplined people operate. Not because they always feel like it, but because they've removed the option to quit. And that's a level most people never reach. Because they're addicted to comfort. Let's be honest, comfort is seductive. It feels good in the moment. It's easy. It doesn't challenge you. It doesn't demand anything from you. But it also doesn't give you anything meaningful in return. Comfort keeps you exactly where you are. And if you're not satisfied with where you are, then comfort is your enemy, not your reward. You have to start seeing it that way. The moment you catch yourself choosing comfort over growth, pause. Ask yourself a simple question. Is this helping me become who I want to be? If the answer is no, then you already know what to do. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable. That's the point. Discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that you're pushing beyond your current limits. It's a sign that you're growing. So instead of avoiding it, learn to move toward it. Train yourself to act even when it feels inconvenient. Train yourself to finish even when it gets boring. Train yourself to keep going even when progress feels slow. Because that's where most people stop. They quit when it's no longer exciting. They give up when results don't come fast enough. They lose focus when things get repetitive. But success lives in that repetition. It lives in the days when you don't feel like it, but you show up anyway. It lives in the moments when no one is watching, no one is praising you, and you still do the work. That's where you separate yourself. Not by talent. Not by luck. But by consistency. And consistency is built on one simple principle: doing what you said you would do, over and over again. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Now take a second and really think about your life as it is right now. Not the version you show people. Not the version you wish it was. The real version. Look at your habits. Look at your daily actions. Look at how you spend your time. Because that's your reality. And if you don't like it, then something has to change. Not everything at once. Not in some unrealistic, overwhelming way. Just one thing. The one thing you've been avoiding. Start there. Handle it. Finish it. Prove to yourself that you're capable of facing what you've been running from. Because once you do that, you break the pattern. You send a message to yourself that things are different now. That you're no longer the person who avoids, delays, and excuses. You become the person who acts. And once that identity starts to build, everything else becomes easier to align with it. Your habits improve. Your focus sharpens. Your confidence grows. Not because life suddenly got easier, but because you got stronger. That's the shift. And it's available to you right now. But only if you're willing to stop avoiding what matters. So don't just listen to this and move on. Don't let this become another message that feels good for a moment, and then fades away. Use it. Take action today. Not later. Not when it's convenient. Right now. And if you're serious about changing your life, about becoming more disciplined, more focused, more in control, then subscribe to this channel. Stoic Mind Force. Because this is where you build that mindset. Not through shortcuts. Not through empty motivation. But through truth, discipline, and action. Your life is hard because you've been avoiding the one thing that could make it better. Now you know what it is. The only question left is, what are you going to do about it? There's another layer to this that most people completely ignore, and it's costing them more than they realize. You don't just avoid hard actions, you avoid honest reflection. You stay busy, distracted, entertained, anything to avoid sitting down with yourself and asking the real questions. Am I actually improving? Am I proud of how I spend my time? Am I becoming someone I respect? That silence, that moment of truth, is uncomfortable. So you escape it. But without reflection, you repeat the same mistakes on autopilot. Your life doesn't change because you never stop long enough to correct your direction. And then there's the habit of starting without finishing. This one quietly destroys confidence. You begin something with energy, maybe a goal, a plan, a routine, but the moment it gets difficult or boring, you drop it. Then you start something else. And the cycle repeats. Over time, you build a pattern of incomplete effort. You train your mind to associate effort with quitting. And eventually, even starting feels pointless because deep down, you don't trust yourself to finish. That's why finishing small things matters. It's not about the task, it's about proving to yourself that you can follow through. Another thing you avoid is structure. You say you want freedom, but without structure you drift. You wake up and react to the day instead of controlling it. You do whatever feels urgent instead of what actually matters. And by the end of the day, you're tired, but not productive. Structure feels restrictive at first, but it's actually what gives you control. When you decide ahead of time what your day looks like, you remove decision fatigue. You don't rely on mood. You execute a plan. And that's how progress becomes predictable instead of accidental. Let's talk about honesty with effort. A lot of people think they're working hard, but if you really look at it, they're just staying busy. There's a difference. Real effort is focused, intentional, and often uncomfortable. Fake effort is scattered, distracted, and easy. You check your phone, switch tasks, take breaks you didn't earn, and then tell yourself you've been working all day. But deep down, you know the truth. And that gap between what you say you're doing and what you're actually doing, that's what keeps your life hard. You're also avoiding patience. You want results fast. You want progress to be visible immediately. And when it's not, you get frustrated, you doubt the process, and you either quit or switch direction. But real growth doesn't work like that. It's slow. It's quiet. It builds over time. And if you're not willing to stay consistent without immediate rewards, you'll never reach the level you're aiming for. Patience isn't passive, it's active consistency over a long period of time. Another hard truth: you avoid accountability. It's easy to make promises to yourself when no one is watching. It's easy to say, "I'll do better tomorrow." But without accountability, those promises mean nothing. You need a system, a standard, something that forces you to confront your actions. Whether it's tracking your habits, setting clear targets, or even sharing your goals with someone who won't let you slide, you need pressure. Because without it, you'll default to comfort every time. And then there's comparison. You might not realize it, but you use it as an excuse. You look at people ahead of you and feel discouraged. You look at people behind you and feel comfortable. Either way, it distracts you. Because the truth is, their path has nothing to do with yours. When you compare instead of focusing, you waste energy that could be used to improve. The only real comparison that matters is who you were yesterday versus who you are today. You also avoid boredom, and this one is dangerous. Because boredom is where discipline is built. When things are no longer exciting, when the novelty fades, that's when most people stop. But if you can learn to operate in that space, where it's repetitive, where it's quiet, where it's just work, you gain an advantage that most people will never have. Boredom is not your enemy. It's your training ground. Another thing, you're avoiding saying no. You say yes to distractions, yes to things that don't align with your goals, yes to people who pull you away from your focus. And every time you say yes to the wrong thing, you say no to your own progress. Discipline isn't just about what you do, it's about what you refuse to do. Protecting your time and energy is not selfish. It's necessary. You also avoid tracking your progress. You rely on feelings instead of facts. You feel like you're improving, or you feel like you're stuck, but you don't actually measure anything. And what you don't measure, you can't improve. When you start tracking your time, your habits, your output, you get clarity. You see what's working and what's not. And that clarity allows you to adjust instead of guessing. Another overlooked point: you avoid building identity. You focus on outcomes instead of who you need to become to achieve them. You want success, but you haven't committed to becoming a disciplined person. You want confidence, but you avoid doing the things that build it. Identity drives behavior. When you start seeing yourself as someone who shows up, who follows through, who does the hard things, your actions begin to align naturally. And finally, you avoid urgency. You act like you have unlimited time. You delay, you postpone, you assume you'll figure it out later. But time is moving whether you act or not. Every day you delay is a day you don't get back. That doesn't mean you rush blindly, but it does mean you stop wasting time on things that don't matter. You treat your life like it's important, because it is. So when you look at all of this together, it becomes clear. Your life isn't hard because you're incapable. It's hard because there are multiple layers of avoidance happening at the same time. But the solution is still simple. Face what you've been avoiding. One layer at a time. Not perfectly. Not all at once. Just consistently. And if you're serious about stepping into a different version of yourself, one that's disciplined, focused, and in control, then subscribe to this channel. Stoic Mind Force. Because this isn't just content. This is a wake-up call. And what you do after this, that's what really matters. At this point, there's nothing left to explain, only a decision left to make. You've heard the truth. Not the soft version, not the comfortable version, but the real one. Your life feels hard because, in too many moments, you've chosen to avoid what matters. You've delayed, distracted yourself, negotiated with your own potential, and settled for less than you're capable of, not because you're weak, but because you've been prioritizing comfort over growth. But now you see it. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The patterns are clear. The habits are clear. The cost is clear. So the question is no longer, why is my life like this? The real question is, am I ready to change how I live? Because change doesn't start with motivation. It doesn't start with a perfect plan. It starts with a decision. A quiet, serious, personal decision that from this moment forward, you stop running. You stop avoiding the hard conversations. You stop delaying the important work. You stop breaking promises to yourself. You stop choosing what's easy when you know it's costing you your future. You don't wait to feel ready, you act anyway. That's where everything begins. And don't expect it to feel good at first. It won't. It will feel uncomfortable, inconvenient, even frustrating. You'll have moments where you want to fall back into old habits, where the easier path calls your name. But this time, you answer differently. You show up anyway. You do the work anyway. You follow through anyway. Because this is no longer about how you feel, it's about who you are becoming. And the version of you that has the life you want? That version doesn't avoid. That version handles things. That version takes responsibility, stays consistent, and finishes what they start. So every action you take from this point forward is a vote. A vote for discipline or a vote for comfort. A vote for growth or a vote for stagnation. A vote for the life you want, or the life you're stuck in. And those votes add up. Day by day, choice by choice, you build a new reality. Not overnight. Not instantly. But inevitably, if you stay consistent. That's the part most people miss. They underestimate the power of small, repeated actions. They look for something dramatic, something life-changing in a single moment. But real change is quieter than that. It's built in the decisions no one sees, in the effort no one praises, in the discipline you choose when it would be easier not to. That's where your new life is waiting. Not in another video. Not in another excuse. Not in someday. Right there, in the things you've been avoiding. So don't close this and go back to the same patterns. Don't let this become just another message that felt powerful for a moment and then disappeared. Use it. Pick one thing, just one, and handle it today. Fully. No excuses. No delays. Let that be the moment things start to shift. Because it's not about doing everything at once. It's about proving to yourself that you're done avoiding. that you're done settling, that you're ready to take control. And once you prove that to yourself, even in a small way, you unlock something powerful: momentum. And momentum, if you protect it, will carry you further than motivation ever could. So this is it. No more waiting. No more excuses. No more avoiding. Face it. Do it. Finish it. And if you want to keep sharpening this mindset, if you want more real, honest guidance that pushes you to act, not just feel inspired, then subscribe to this channel. Stoic Mind Force. Because this isn't just about watching content. It's about becoming someone you can respect. And that starts the moment you stop avoiding and start taking control of your life.